Good evening, Drew.
Hey, Paul, you sound a little chipper.
Oh, I do? Well, it's a lie because I'm really freaking
Long week, buddy.
tired. Yeah, it's fine. It's all
Yeah.
good though. I just, sometimes you got a lot of energy, and some days it's 9 o'clock, and you're like, oh, I'm ready for bed. I'm a sleepy boy.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I'm gonna wrap this up. We're gonna say our goodbyes, and then I'm gonna go straight to bed.
Same.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But we do it for our six fans, or however many we have now.
Oh, 60, 70 ish. I don't know, somewhere.
Okay.
Dozens. There's dozens of you.
Literally dozens of you. Almost. Almost. Wait, how many dozens is that?
Five,
12, 24,
5, 6.
36, 48, 60. Five dozens. Yeah, we
Yeah,
did it.
yeah.
Yeah, got it in one. All right. So, all right, I was going to start with that first topic, but we'll scratch that because
Okay.
that's fine.
Yeah.
We do this live. I know everybody loves when we talk about Drew's Computer Corner, but I just want to bring this back very briefly.
Briefly, quote unquote.
Yeah, I have officially achieved cooling nirvana in my computer.
So, all your temps are even better. They're stable. Everything's good.
Temps are good-ish.
Good-ish.
Yeah, well-
That doesn't sound like Nirvana.
Well, the temps were okay last time, but it was just really loud. The fans were very loud.
Oh, okay.
So I did a lot of research, and I literally spent last Friday and Saturday trying a bunch of different configurations. So if you're one of our dozens of listeners that listens to this podcast, I promise this won't take very long. You may remember last week when we recorded, I talked about I was going to do some case swapping, and I did. That's all done.
Okay.
And when I did all the case swapping, I didn't initially I put a lot of the same components and a lot of the same fans in this new case. And I was worried because it doesn't have quite the airflow, or at least I didn't think it was going to in my last case, because the front panel is completely solid, and it has like little intakes around like the exterior of the case.
I remember. Yeah.
Yep. So I put everything back together, and I wasn't happy with how loud it was. So I said, screw this. And I have officially installed my Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 280 millimeter CPU cooler. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, if you are a system builder, if you like to build PCs, this is absolutely the liquid cooler you should own. Full stop. Don't spend anything else. Get this. I don't care if you want RGB. I don't care if you want screens. I don't care what you want. This is the cooler for you.
Yeah, this is very subdued. Like there's no, it's just fans, like the radiator and the cooling block.
Yep.
Ooh, I do notice they have a product called the Liquid Freezer 2 420. Blaze it.
Right.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm poking around the website. So
That's
what is-
okay.
so Liquid Freezer, that's quite a bold.
Right.
Like they're making a lot of claims there. Like, hey,
Yeah.
this is cold.
Well,
So why is it so good, Drew?
all right. Arctic is a company that I think most people would recognize. Again, if you are a PC builder, they make really good thermal interface material, which is the goop you put on your processor and then put your fans or your cooler on. So it gets a nice even spread, and heat is transferred from one surface to another. It's just a conductive material. It's a heat conductive material, not an electrically conductive material. But they also make CPU fans. They make very, very nice case fans. And a couple of years ago, they got in on making all-in-one coolers. Now, turns out, if you were to walk to your local Micro Center or store that sells computer parts, or you go online to Newegg, and you start looking at all-in-one coolers, the unfortunate thing is, functionally, they're all the same. There's one company, the company's name is Asatek. They own a patent on the design of these all-in-one pumps that these companies use. So if you buy a Corsair or an Asus or an EVGA or there's a million of these things, right? The pumps are either manufactured directly by this company Asatek, or these companies use their license to produce these pumps, okay? So what sets all these things apart from each other? As I've mentioned on this podcast before, I like the ones that have the little LCD screens that can show me temperatures in real time. Some have more RGB than others. Some of the radiators are slightly different designs, but by and large, they're all the same thing. Okay. However, Arctic has their own pump design. Okay, they're one of 2 or 3 companies that doesn't use the Asetek design for their pumps that I'm aware of, right? And if I'm wrong, feel free to Twitter and I'll reply to you never. But they have their own system for this. Okay, and unlike a lot of the other CPU coolers that you can buy, there's only one cable you need to plug into your motherboard. There's no USB headers because it doesn't have RGB or some other control software for this. It just runs off your motherboard, CPU fan power. There's a cord that is actually part of the braided tubes that come off the pump and go to the radiator that control the power for the fans that are attached to the radiator. So it's aesthetically very nice to look at, very minimalistic. It has a VRM cooling fan on it to move some air around the capacitors and things that supply power to your processor. Very, very well built. Okay.
Okay.
Now here's the ultimate though. Number 1, these radiators are thick. They are. I have the 280 millimeter radiator, which means that what that means is it can house 2 140 millimeter fans, and fans come in 120 millimeter and 140 millimeter. Bigger fans mean more airflow at lower speeds, so quieter fans, right?
Makes sense.
These radiators are several millimeters thicker than other commercial AIOs or all-in-one coolers. So what I did and what ended up working the best for me is I took the radiator and I mounted it in the front of the case. Typically, I always mount these at the top because that's the more traditional way of doing it. And I know this from my learnings with water cooling before, is that you want your pump to not be the highest thing in your loop. Okay, especially with all-in-one coolers where the pump is housed on the cooler, you want to make sure that air doesn't rest in your pump. Well, air rises in a liquid. So as long as the pump is the lowest, or not the highest, not the lowest, but not the highest part of your loop, you're good. So I mounted the radiator on the front of the case, okay? But it's on the inside of it's hard to explain without showing you a picture, but there's 2 ways you can mount it. I could put the radiator and the fans on the exterior shell of the case and cover it up, but that would limit the amount of air that could flow into the fan. So I put the radiator inside the case and the fans on the outside shell of the case. Still, you can't see these fans. It's just the way, I don't really know how else to describe it. And that is blowing air through the radiator and into my case. And then at the top of my case, I just have 3 regular 120 millimeter super brown Noctua fans that are pushing air out the top. And truth be told, I can actually feel the air being sucked in the vents on either side of the front of my case.
Interesting.
So I think a combination of that and this new cooler, it is doing a very good job, and it's very, very quiet. Even when the fans sort of ramp up when the computer first starts, you can't hear it. You can hear it, but it's just way quieter than any other cooler that I've tested. I don't need third-party software to control this. I don't need bad motherboard software. It doesn't have any RGB. I mean, I've got RGB in other places, but whatever. And it is great. It is a great product. Now here's the kicker though, Paul.
Okay.
Thick 280 millimeter radiator, 2 high quality fans, an excellent, well-designed, well-thought-out pump. What do you think it costs?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay, so
okay,
to level
okay,
set,
okay.
level set.
Mm-hmm.
Other 280 millimeter kits, okay, that, are either marketed as like mainstream or gamer, all caps, TM, right? Go anywhere from about $190 to the higher end $290. So where do you think this one lands?
I mean, I would guess. I mean, if they have their own pump design, maybe they're paying off the R&D. Like, I would guess 250, maybe like 229.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hold on, I'm going to show you.
Okay.
I'm going to show you.
Okay.
$114.
Oh, that's cheaper. Holy shit.
$114.
That's pretty good. Wow.
Now here's the way the universe works, Paul.
Okay.
I had this cooler in my possession since December, but I wasn't able to install it.
Didn't have enough room in your case, or
so the bracket that shipped with the kit that I got.
This is the bracket. Yes. Okay.
Wasn't compatible, right? So
yes.
what did I do? Idiot that I am, right? I tried a bunch of other things, spent money I shouldn't, and probably didn't have to spend, right? So I had to go online and tell them, hey, your default bracket isn't compatible with my motherboard. So I put in a ticket on their website. They promptly replied. The screws ended up arriving last week. Literally, they sent me 4 screws. That's all it was. I don't have to use a bracket. The refined screws that they sent screw directly into the socket that's on my default motherboard, which is literally how every other cooler that attaches to an AM4 motherboard does the exact same thing. But I will say that this was the biggest pain in the ass to install out of any of them. Because when you prep your motherboard to install this, the screws have to screw into this metal plate that is on the back of your motherboard. Bereft of screws, nothing holds that in place. You also have to manually apply your own thermal compound to this thing. Okay. And trying to hold the back plate, trying to hold a pump that has thermal conductive goop on one end of it, trying to line it up with the holes in your motherboard and also put screws in is a very difficult thing to do for one person. I had to have my lady friend help me socket this thing. So I sing the praises of this thing, but the installation is a little bit more difficult than you typically find, because a lot of the other coolers, what they give you are screws that screw into the back plate and become like standoff screws that you then put the bracket on and then ratchet down with other screws.
Yeah.
These guys don't do that, okay? And maybe that's where you get some of these big savings, but otherwise, the only other thing that kind of bit me a little bit is that when I plugged everything in, one of the fans was making a clicking noise. Come to find out that one of the fans, the wire that sort of is like the power cable and then goes into like the bearings where the little motor is, there was a little tiny piece of plastic that was broken. So I had to get out the super glue and manually patch that. But I'm calling that an outlier, right? And I actually ordered another fan that is here. I just haven't taken apart my computer to replace it because I've been actually able to enjoy my computer.
Turns out.
So everything's working and like I'm happy and I don't want to mess with it more than I have to. So suffice to say, I think we can officially close this chapter. Knock on bamboo desk.
Okay.
That nothing else happens. Everything is good. Everything is working correctly. It's a phenomenal computer. I'm finally happy. I went through a lot to get to this point, but I'm happy. The end.
Now, do you think are they just higher quality fans, or do you think
Yes.
the fact that do you think the fact that they're thicker, they're moving more air and can spin a little slower, or is it both?
So let me see if I can find this real quick.
Okay.
So the fans are also made by Arctic. A lot of other companies use fans. Like Asus had a deal with Noctua, where they were using Noctua fans in some of their products, which were pretty good. But these guys, let me see if I can find it here. Case fans. Yeah, so let me find this. I think it's a P14 PWM. Yeah, it's this guy. So I'm pretty sure it's this one. Let me drop this in the dock. So Arctic makes, again, really high quality fans. And when you buy fans, you can either get airflow or static pressure fans, if the fans are up against something like a radiator, what you want is high pressure that doesn't have to travel very far versus a case fan that might need to move a large volume of air a large distance, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So these fans are really good. Again, Arctic kind of known for this, where they just make really good fans. So they're just very efficient about moving air through the radiator. And they're just very quiet. Yeah.
Excellent. Ooh, premium quality Japanese dual ball bearing allows continuous operation 24/7 without the slightest compromise in performance.
Keep going. I'm almost there.
Dust and high temperature are affecting this bearing a lot less than generic sleeve or one ball bearings, and thus make it the perfect choice when reliability is essential.
There you go. We like that. Now, adjacent to all this discussion, I had a very traumatic episode in my kitchen this morning.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of curious. Okay, yep. I want. All right.
Okay. So
what happened, Drew?
All right. So here's what happened. Sort of again adjacent to Drew working on his computer. As you can imagine, as I've been tearing down and rebuilding and testing and retesting and tearing down and rebuilding and testing and retesting, I've gone through a lot of computer parts, and I've had to swap out cases, and I have boxes of stuff, and I've got parts just all over my basement. Okay. So over the last few days, what I have found that has been very therapeutic for me is when I have little lulls in my work, I go downstairs and I've just been cleaning out my basement.
Okay.
I've been,
Nice.
I've been consolidating boxes and, things where I've got parts in certain boxes and cables and stuff. I've just been very intentional about consolidating and just deciding that I'm never going to use certain things again and throwing them out and looking for things that I want to keep that I might need one day. And one of the casualties of this is the water-cooled PC that I built last year, right? If you remember my tubes and my liquid, right?
I do.
Yeah. Now, when I took that apart, I was in a bit of a rush because I had my new graphics card and I wanted to get everything out of there and I wanted to get everything ready to go. So when I took all that apart, I drained it just enough to take out everything that I needed. So for the past several months at this point, there's been liquid sitting in parts of my case that just, has radiators and tubes in it.
Okay.
And, I have other back plates and CPU mounting brackets and things that are in there. So, like I said, over the past few days, I've been kind of taking that equipment, tearing it down, cleaning it, reassembling it. And one thing that I'm definitely probably going to reuse one day are these radiators, or I might sell them because they're very lightly and gently used and they're really high quality radiators. So they're worth something. Now, in order to do that, just like I did the first time, what I did is I sort of disassembled anything, made a huge mess in my unfinished basement because water goes where it's not supposed to. It's really good at that. And I started trying to clean these things. And vinegar makes a very good radiator flush liquid for this purpose. Okay. Because this coolant has been sitting stagnant and it has additives and biocides in it and all sorts of stuff that can sit idle for a little while, but you shouldn't leave sitting idle forever. So after I took everything apart, I heated up some water in the microwave, flushed the radiator once, heated up some vinegar in the microwave with a little bit of water to dilute it, flushed it again, and everything was going good until I spilled vinegar everywhere. So my kitchen smelled like vinegar. And here's the thing about clear vinegar. If you could see it and clean it up, the smell goes away really fast.
Okay, yeah.
But on granite countertops that you can't really see clear liquid on, like I would walk past my kitchen and I'd smell vinegar and I'd be like, I know there's more vinegar in there. And I would like go over the counter with a paper towel and water and soap. And it took me a good couple hours to find all the hot spots in there. So just one final middle finger from my last computer that, I'll never be free of this.
Oh,
I'll never be free.
That's too good. That's too good.
Yeah. All right.
Oh.
So let's talk about stuff you want to talk about. You got a link in here. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so I just saw this. The link I have is an Ars Technica article, which I'm not sure why Ars Technica is writing about this kind of stuff, but meh, it's what I saw. So I was today years old when I learned that they are turning Sandman into a series on Netflix. And apparently today they announced the casting of some of the key characters, including Dream and Lucifer. Have you seen anything about this, Drew? Have you looked at this link yet?
I'm looking at it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in love with these castings.
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Gwendolyn Christie is Lucifer.
Yes.
Looking at her picture, though, you know she'd make a perfect casting of Desire. She could have also worked as Desire, right?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. They have not announced like the other members of the Pantheon. But yeah.
Boyd Holbrook's the Corinthian.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Corinthian.
Yep. Like obviously there's going to have to be a little bit of CGI on that, but right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only one that doesn't kind of fit the mold here is Vivian, I don't know how to say her last name, is Lucien instead of Lucius as the library.
Yeah, they gender swap. Yeah, they gender swap that one, which is fine.
I'm good with that.
Yep.
I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they have they started filming this yet?
Apparently they're just going to get started. The episodes are, from what I've seen in other places, it is still planning to come out some point this year, but like they haven't announced, like I guess they have enough cast to start filming the beginning of the series, right? Because obviously you can see that someone has been cast as the charlatan and magician. So you can definitely see like they're going to definitely do the beginning, I don't know, no spoilers.
Yep.
But they haven't they haven't cast, at least they haven't announced like, who's Death, who's, Desire, who's Delirium.
Oh my God, Death was one of, if not my favorite character from that entire series.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see who they cast as Death. Or I mean, for all I know, they could make it a brother and not a sister. I mean, like I'm perfectly fine with this whole it obviously in the books Lucifer is masculine, but just barely. Like I think like gender is supposed to be something that's very fluid. Like it's not like a lot of the characters are kind of androgynous anyway. Mm-hmm. So like I really don't care what gender they cast for any of these, but I'm just really curious to see who they cast and how well this translates to the a television show.
Well, one line really stands out in this article you linked, and you guys can all check out the show links for this, but there had long been interest in adapting the series for film, with multiple failed attempts at creating a viable script by Warner Brothers. Gaiman deemed one of these not only the worst Sandman script I've ever read, but quite easily the worst script I've ever read. I'm sort of glad that he's involved, right? You can't do this without him. You cannot do this without him.
Absolutely. I also learned something reading this article that are you familiar with the Lucifer television show that I think it was on the CW for a few years?
Yeah, I think it's on Netflix now.
Yeah, turns out that was inspired by the Sandman it's supposed to be like this is what Lucifer does when he leaves hell.
Oh, right.
Not to give too many spoilers, but yeah. So apparently that's what that show was. That was its inspiration. It's what Lucifer does when he's he's got a lot of free time on his hands.
Yeah. Now, have you finished reading all the Sandman yet?
No, I've been my comic reading time has been diminished twofold. One, just general helping my son with math, and two, it's hockey season. So
Oh, right.
Yep. So a little bit less free time, but I am still making progress. I haven't stopped completely. I'm just reading less. No, it's still good. I'm still in the middle of, like the big event that I was just getting into the last time we talked about it, which I don't want to give any spoilers, but it was good before and now it's great. And
I know, right?
Yeah.
It just keeps getting better.
Yep.
It just keeps getting better. What volume were you on?
4 or 5.
Okay.
I'd have to go and look. My iPad is all the way over there.
I still am moved by the way the whole series ends.
Yep.
I'm still really moved by the writing and sort of how everything wraps up in that. So keep going. I hope you can finish it off soon.
Slow and steady. Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about this next topic here.
Okay.
So Paul, have you been swept up in all this Reddit Wall Street bet stock mania?
I've been paying a little bit of attention from a distance. Yes, it did force me to learn what a short was because I didn't understand what that phrase was. But yes, I have been following this Wall Street's bets and their love for GameStop in particular.
So we're recording this on the 28th, which is a Thursday. Today was kind of a crappy day if you're riding that train, just because of some shenanigans with some of these quote unquote independent retail brokerages that you can sign up for, and there'll be a lot of links in the show notes. Okay, so Paul, I got swept up in this.
Okay,
I'm very impressionable.
Okay.
I'm very impressionable. Now I will say that I did not buy any GameStop stock because over the past few days, just a little too rich for my blood. Like I'm not like some of these yahoos on this subreddit that, mortgage their house to go all in on GameStop, right? Like I'm not that guy. I'm a little more measured in my enthusiasm.
Yep. At some point, people are going to start selling, and that price is going to drop.
It took a pretty big hit. It took a pretty big hit today.
Yeah.
So there'll be, if you're not sure what we're talking about, and I don't see how you possibly can't be, we'll put some links in the show notes that sort of explain the current situation and everything. But what we're gonna talk about now is specifically sort of my involvement with this, and regrets that I have.
Okay.
So when I decided that I was gonna try to sort of get in on this goodness, right? I was stalking the subreddit called Wall Street Bets, and they were talking about different stocks that they were also looking at as, being very heavily shorted by things like hedge fund managers and investment houses and things like that. And two of the stocks that quite frankly showed up in a lot of discussions and people were pretty bullish on in that subreddit anyway was Nokia and AMC theaters. Okay. So Nokia hasn't made a competent headset in, God, I don't even know how long. Aside from those phones that you could literally kill somebody with because they were so well built.
Yeah.
And AMC's obviously been in the shitter since, 2020, gestures at everything.
They were all stocks that were generally considered to be overvalued.
Right.
And should we explain what a short is real quick for those people who don't, for the 12 people who don't know? Because I didn't know what this was.
Go for it.
So essentially, this is my understanding, is to take a short. Essentially, you basically borrow or borrow a share of a stock from somebody with the intention that you have to give it back, or a stock. It doesn't have to be the same one. So what you would do is you would buy a stock when you think that it is overvalued and sell it for market rate. So if you think it's worth 10 and it's currently valued as 50, right? So you borrow that share, you sell it for 50, and then you hope, this is the gambling part, that the price actually drops lower. So when you have to give the share back, you can buy it for hopefully like $10, give the share back, and you made $40 minus fees and all that wonderful stuff. But that's the basic notion of shorting a stock.
What you're essentially doing is betting that the company fails.
Yes. Yeah. Or it gets devalued, or a market correction happens and the stock price goes to what it should be, what you feel it should be valued at. Yeah. But you're betting that it goes down.
Right.
Which for GameStop, I think is a pretty safe bet.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we live in an era where everybody downloads games at this point. There's very few times you actually buy a physical copy of a game unless you're buying from Amazon to get it on release day and you want a physical copy. Like those people still exist. I mean, no shade, no lemonade. But they've been in the tank for a while.
COVID hasn't helped.
Nope, COVID hasn't helped because part of their like rebranding and an effort to sort of right the ship for them is they decided that they wanted to basically stand up PCs that you could go in and play games on, like rent time on and stuff. Okay, so not the best time to do that either.
No,
right?
No.
So anyway, I was watching Wall Street Bets and I was watching Threads and I was watching some of these stocks and I said to myself, I'm a pretty well-off guy at this point. I'm going to take an amount of money and I'm going to add it to because I have a brokerage account because of, I had one years ago with Fidelity at my first job out of college back when I got stock options and stock grants from them. And now where I work now, it's the same thing. So I've had 401k accounts in Fidelity. So I've had that, right? And I was looking to sort of do things relatively quickly. So like I tried to sign up on Robinhood and I tried to sign up with E-Trade and like both of those things were absolutely getting crushed with new signups and it just wasn't working. So I said, screw it. I just wanted the fastest way to get money into a brokerage account so I could actually do this because I felt like there was definitely a time limit on how this was going to work. So I took some money. I'm not going to say how much, but it was not a lot of money. It was not a lot of money. It was less than 4 figures. Okay.
Okay.
And what I decided, I was going to split that money evenly buying shares of Nokia and AMC.
Okay.
So I did this yesterday, Wednesday, and I bought those shares. And by the end of the day, I had made several $100s.
Nice.
Now, let me be clear. When I say I made I made several $100s.
You had unrealized gains.
Exactly. I had assets that were valued at that money. I did not have that money in my hands because that's not how it works.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
And then today happened where some of these brokerage, these retail brokerage firms or things were restricting access to these quote unquote volatile stocks and volatile market stuff and basically putting a giant wet blanket on this entire enterprise, right?
Yes.
My gains are completely wiped out. I am now officially in the red. Which the lesson here is don't get caught up in the hype. Never put more out there than you're willing to lose.
Yep.
I did not cash out yet. I'm going to give it one more day. And if it doesn't turn around significantly, I'm just going to say cut and run. Lesson learned. There's no quick way to get rich.
Well, so I got to find this article and put it in there. So I can't remember what company it was. Some company did a study of, it's like these brokerage accounts, these stock trading things, portfolios that made the most money. And the top 2 were people that were deceased and people that had lost their passwords.
Wow.
So if you really want to make money in the stock market is that you put money into the stock market and you don't fuck around with it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
And that is accurate. It is a long-term thing, not a short-term thing. Now, some of this GameStop stuff has actually sort of quietly been going on a little bit longer until the media and like the general public kind of figured out about it. So, like some of these guys are up millions of dollars. They were. They're probably not up as high as they were now, but then again, these people took $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 and bought shares, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of money. No,
I'm not doing that.
No.
I'm not doing that. Like for me, a couple $100, you throw it at it, you see what happens, right?
Yep.
Just because I just wanted to see if this effect was real because the GameStop stock price is high enough that unless you are willing to invest several thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, you're not going to see a huge return at this point. But my thinking was, if I get into Nokia at $6 and these guys take it to the moon at 60, well then I've made 10 times my money back, minus brokerage fees and taxes, of course. But that's not unreasonable given what some of these Redditors are straight up militant about sticking it to Wall Street. So I don't want to rule out the collective mob mentality that's happening here.
Yeah. A lot of the people that are on Reddit saying, buy the dips, don't sell. Their goal is for you not to get rich. They just really want to take down these, these hedge funds that have put billions of dollars into shorting these stocks.
Right. And that subreddit is actually pretty funny to read sometimes.
Yeah, it's been bubbling. I'm not a subscriber, but it's been bubbling up into like popular and all, and you can't avoid it. And like literally everybody on Twitter has a hot take at like sites that you would never would have imagined writing about finances or writing about it now, because there's the internet aspect of it, and I mean
the video game aspect of it, right?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
It's just there's a lot of angles at play. It is the true perfect storm of really the general public trying to get rich in the stock market, which other people have done for decades, and now other people are finally getting a chance to do it, and suddenly it's bad, right? Like,
yeah, I mean these people, they're not doing anything illegal. They're not, no one is, no one made any, recommendations or trades based on insider information. They're just like, hey, if we all do this thing, I mean the stock market is essentially just supply and demand. And if you increase the demand, the price is going to go up. And that's what they're doing. I mean, I don't have any love lost for these hedge funds or these billionaires who are complaining about things like just screw them. And, if hedge funds were actually taxed, then maybe this wouldn't be a problem anyway, but that's another story. But I'm just worried about the people just getting swept into the hype and going, oh, I should buy games, buying GameSpot is a surefire way for me to make some money, and they're spending money that they shouldn't be, and they're going to lose money, and they're just, but I mean, there's always someone out there trying to separate a fool from his dollar. So it's nothing new there, but yeah, so you bought some, you should have sold while you were ahead. You should have day traded the heck out of that and just.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what I'm doing. Right. Like, I just got caught up in it. That's all.
I spent a lot of time telling myself that I would never buy individual stocks, that I always just do, index funds or of the typical retirement stuff. But the wife was curious, right when COVID was hitting and everything was kind of tanking, she was like, these stocks have to rebound. So when we didn't put a lot of money into it either, we just put, what we could afford. It's in the same range that, that you put in there. But, we bought stocks like Disney.
Yeah.
And that's turned out to be a really good investment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, where I work now, that's been pretty good to me too. Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't have any deep insights. I just got caught up in the hype. And again, I'm in a position where I can afford to do that. And if I lost all of this money, it would suck, but I'm not going to miss a mortgage payment, and I'm not going to, have to go without anything else because of it. I would say it was just an experiment to see just how good this really is. And I didn't envision getting rich, but if I was able to double my money, I would have called it a success. Let's put it that way. And for a brief few hours yesterday, I was close. That was real close.
Yeah.
So we'll see if things kind of calm down tomorrow, because there's obviously a lot of drama today with stuff, and we'll sort of see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, everyone got so upset that Robinhood stopped the purchasing of these stocks, but not the selling. But if you look into it, like Robinhood is owned by the same capital firm that owns a lot of these hedge funds, and like they don't make money by you doing trades. They make money selling your data and giving these, these other agencies like they can like allow them to play arbitrage and get access to your trades a split second before it's executed, and like they're not they're not your friend. They're just a mechanism to, like everything else. If it's free, you're the product. And all disclosure, I use Robinhood.
Do you?
Like that's who I use for my pathetic stock holdings. But I just it was free and I signed up, and it's worked well. I mean, I like the site. It works well, and I'm going to continue to use it because I'm lazy, and I looked what it would take to take stuff out of there, and there's fees involved. I'm like, I'm just going to let it sit. But yeah. Like I'm not a I own I'm a stocks are not my primary investment. They're just something that we're like, yeah, we should give this a try. And we did. But yeah. Well, I'm sorry your investment didn't work out, Drew.
Oh, that's all good. I mean,
it could. Like they as long as they get more people to start buying it, the price could go back up. Like
we'll see.
Don't count it out.
We'll see. Like I said, I'll give it another day. It just, and it's not worthless. Like I will get some of my money back, right? It's not like I lost it.
And if you lose money, you can claim that on your taxes.
That is also true.
That's a deduction. See?
Yeah, capital loss and capital gains, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that is definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Definitely a thing.
It's really funny. I'm just going through and looking at like the stock history of like these couple of stocks, and it's funny how like similar their ups and downs are between AMC and GameStop. It's just hilarious. I bet you can map that to Twitter posts and news happenings,
sure.
and just go, oh, that's when that happened. That's when that happened. Oh, that's when they posted that on Reddit. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Totally. 100%.
This is not investment advice. Seek a trained,
oh, right. Don't
investment professional if you want to invest money in the stock market. Or please
don't listen to us. Don't listen to me. I'm a giant dummy. If you've listened to this podcast at all, I make terrible decisions. Please don't do what I do. Please. I'm not your role model.
No. I should buy some Apple stock. It's in a little bit of a dip right now.
Dude, you got to buy in the dips, dude. Get those tendies.
Got to buy the dips.
Got to get those tendies.
Is that a chicken tender dip reference?
I have no idea. I'm using words from the subreddit that are probably offensive. I don't even know what it means.
That has to be what it means, right? Because you buy the dips and you dip tendies and you dip tendies. And,
hey, I was 9:43 p.m. 1/28/2021 years old when I just made that connection. I think you're absolutely right. Oh man, it's kind of bullshit what they did today though about limiting that.
I know, but like if you're surprised, like
that's true.
You shouldn't be like especially like their business model and how they make, and like this is stuff I learned after the fact. Like I signed up for Robinhood and purchased stocks and did transactions through them before I knew this stuff, and it's just been me reading this and learning that like I think literally the company that is a big capital investor into the one particular hedge fund that lost all the money owns Robinhood.
Right. Or has some sort of connection to
has
it,
some
right?
sort of connection or some like a business relationship, right? Because like Robinhood makes money by selling information about your trades and then giving all these companies like access to your trades like a split second before they happen, so they can like arbitrage and buy this like and just make fractions of a penny and all this stuff over and over again. So like they're these. You're not making the money. It's all these other companies that are. So of course they're going to favor that. And there's a question of whether it was legal or whatever, like, and that'll be handled in the courts. But like, I mean, let's be honest, like Wall Street always seems to come out on top. So they'll lobby, laws will change. Like, but then I don't know what they could do. I mean, this is literally just a bunch of people getting together and saying we're going to buy a bunch of stocks at the same time. This is literally what these big companies do all the time. It's just, us poors decided to do it.
Right. Us peasants.
Yes.
But that reminds me of something that I thought was really interesting, and I'm trying to find the article online. It was published years ago, but it really struck me as something that was interesting because with all the trades that are sort of made digitally on the stock market, and as people who have written software and use enterprise software, you know that speed is an important matter, right?
Right.
Now, these trades happen at volume that we probably can't even begin to comprehend, and at speed that we probably can't comprehend because of computers and modern networks and stuff like that, right? I read a thing that brokerage houses that do trades, or whatever the name of the people in the place that actually do the trades that aren't on the floor of the NASDAQ or the Dow Jones or whatever, the closer you are, the better off you are. And literally, if you're a block closer to the place where the trades happen, you have an advantage because your ones and zeros take less time to get there.
Yeah, you're traveling over less wire.
Right.
Yeah.
And in today's world, the difference between, fortune and ruin could be microseconds,
Yeah.
And what really struck me about this article, and I'll try to find it and put it in show notes, but the basic gist was this. And to try to level the playing field, this company proposed building a box that literally was just a box that had extra cable in it, so the bits had to travel faster.
Everyone had to be the same distance, quote unquote, from the stock exchange.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'll try to find that. It was a fascinating read because it's such a lo-fi solution to a high-tech problem. Like, just put more wire, right? Like, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So I'll try to find it, but it was really interesting, just the way that all this works, because there is some like really cool technology behind the scenes that make all this possible. And think about how resilient a system like that needs to be.
Yeah. So about 20 years ago, I was on a problem. I was back when I used to be Paul Baylor, and I was an overpriced consultant who didn't know anything. One of the lead architects on the project had spent some time. That's obviously 20 years ago. And he had spent some time working in New York Stock Exchange and building real-time trading systems. And if that individual was any indication, that whole industry, all that software runs on cocaine.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I believe it.
Yep. Fun story. He was a very bright guy. He was one of those people that was either going to burn bright or burn out, and I got to witness him burn out. So,
well, really?
Oh, that's a story. I may have told the story another time in another way, but yeah, it was a very interesting project, and he made some poor decisions.
Well, I mean, who hasn't, really?
Yeah. There's poor decisions, and then there's trying to expense bribes. So.
Are you even allowed? Is the statute of limitations expired on this one, or are we gonna go to jail? Or
it's a long story.
Okay, all right, save it for the next show.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I'll give a very, very abridged version of this.
Okay.
So on this particular project, the company I worked for, we were subcontracting through Microsoft Consulting Services, right? So they owned the relationship, and they were subcontracting out to the company I worked for. And a lot of the guys traveled, right? So they were coming from Chicago, they're coming from Cincinnati, they're coming from all over. So there's expenses, right? There's hotels, there's cabs. This is before Uber, right? There's meals, per diems, all that kind of stuff. So and I was local, so I didn't have to deal with any of that crap. So anyone who was traveling, they had to submit basically 2 expense reports. One to our one to the company I worked for, and another one to Microsoft. And every couple of weeks, we had like a handler, and he would send out an email saying, "Hey, this like discrepancies, like, hey Brian, you have a $75 difference between your two expense reports, or 25. And it was usually like a cab ride or something little, right?" And one week, and there was like, okay, you're $75 different, and the guy I'm referring to, you're like $7,000 different this period. And then within days he was gone. He was the what I have heard is he was taking the clients to gentlemen's clubs and trying to expense it. He was and I think what really got him in super in trouble was he was also like, they had rules about what kind of car you could rent, right? It had to be, a sensible car, but not too cheap, right? It was, a nice mid-range, like, sedan. And he was getting, like, sports cars and stuff. So he was trying to slip that through. And the story that I was told was he got into a car accident, and he was afraid that he got into a car accident that things would be reported, and the company would realize that he was renting a sports car, which they realized eventually. So he tried to bribe the person that he hit not to report the accident, and then tried to expense the bribe. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Imagine having that much big dick energy, right? The rules the rules don't apply to me on such a huge level, right?
I mean, he was a really, really intelligent guy. I think he was just like, I had a lifestyle that he was going to live, and he was going to try to pull this off. And like, what he was doing was like submitting two different expenses, like trying to like expense all the expenses to the company he thought wasn't going to give it a lot of scrutiny, and only the reasonable expenses to the company that was going to give it a lot of scrutiny. And those two didn't match, and then it flagged everything off. And and then he was gone.
Wow, that's nuts, man.
Yeah. I learned there's so many horror stories about that project that I could tell. But that's the one that's Wall Street related, because his previous job was, like I said, building real-time systems for the New York Stock Exchange, or people trading on the New York Stock Exchange.
Now I'm sure that pays pretty well, though.
Yeah, I have to imagine it would, but I have to imagine it's I mean, we were building a web app for dealing with like quoting insurance, so I'm sure the stakes are a little lower, and at some point you have to just slow down. Yeah, it's very different building typical enterprise CRUD apps than it is to build.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier, I would imagine.
Wow. All right, I think we're done.
I think we're done. I told a story.
I think we're done.
Yeah. We're sleepy. We want to go to bed.
Yeah, I'm really sleepy.
As always, you can find us on the internet at doingtheirbest.com. We're at Twitter at doingbestpod. And whatever podcatcher you use, give us a review. Give us those stars, those sweet stars.
Yeah, whatever pod fucker you stick your dick in, just leave us a review. All right.
I live on a diet of gummy bears and stars from reviews right now. So give me those stars. You can find me on Twitter at Paul Baylor. And where can we find you, Drew?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Pittfurg, Pittfurg.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.